In a small town where everyone knew each other's name, lived a boy named Daniel. He wasn't poor, and he wasn't rich either, but what he had was something far more valuable: parents who loved him more than life itself. His father, Mr. Thomas, worked long hours at a local factory. Every evening, his clothes smelled of oil and sweat, but his eyes always searched for one thing when he entered the house: his son. His mother, Mrs. Anna, stayed at home. She cooked, cleaned, prayed, and waited for Daniel to come home safely from school, from friends, from life, from the day Daniel could walk. His parents gave him only one treasure advice. "Son," his father would say, "life will test you. Respect people, even when they don't respect you." His mother would gently add, "And never forget where you came from. Success means nothing if you lose your heart." But like most children, Daniel listened with his ears, not with his heart. As Daniel grew older, his dreams grew bigger. He wanted money, fame, a life beyond the small town. He would sit in his room watching videos of successful people, luxurious cars, tall buildings, shining offices. One night he said, "Dad, Mom, I don't want this life. I want more." His father smiled softly. "We want you to have more too, son. Just don't forget who stood with you when you had nothing." His mother held his hand and said, "Success is beautiful, but kindness is more beautiful." Daniel nodded, but deep inside, he thought, "They don't understand this world. They are old-fashioned." When Daniel turned 18, he got an offer to move to the city for studies and work. His parents were proud, but worried. The night before he left, his mother packed his bag quietly. She slipped a small note inside. It said, "No matter how high you rise, never look down on the hands that lifted you." His father hugged him and said only one line, "Son, when life becomes busy, don't make your parents your later." Daniel smiled. "Don't worry, Dad. I'll call every day." He didn't know that life would slowly turn those everyday calls into once a week, then once a month, and then almost never. The city welcomed Daniel with bright lights and loud dreams, new friends, new clothes, new lifestyle. And slowly, new attitude. He started feeling embarrassed of his simple parents, their old clothes, their small house, their simple way of talking. When his mother called, he often said, "I'm busy, Mom, I'll call later." Later never came. His father once called and said, "Son, your mother is not well. She misses you." Daniel replied quickly, "I'll come next month. I have important work." That next month kept moving. Again and again. Years passed. Daniel became successful. Good job, good salary, good life. But somewhere in a quiet house, back in the small town, two parents were growing old, alone. One evening, Daniel received a message from his neighbor. "Your mother keeps waiting at the door every evening, thinking you might come." He read the message. He felt something in his chest, but he closed the phone and went back to his busy life. One rainy night, his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello," a weak voice replied. "Daniel, this is your father." Daniel froze. "Dad, why are you calling from another number?" His father paused, and then said softly, "Your mother? She is in the hospital." Daniel's heart started beating fast. "What happened?" His father said, "She keeps calling your name in her sleep. The doctor says her heart is tired, just like her body." Daniel booked the first ticket back home. For the first time in years, he was not excited to go forward. He was scared to go back. When Daniel entered the hospital room, he saw his mother lying on the bed, weaker, older, different. She opened her eyes slowly and smiled. "My son, you finally came." Tears rolled down Daniel's face. "I'm sorry, Mom, I was busy." She gently touched his hand. "I know, my child. Life becomes busy. That's why parents speak early, because children understand late." Those words hit him harder than any punishment. That night, Daniel sat outside the hospital room with his father. His father said nothing for a long time. Then he spoke. "Son, parents don't give advice to control their children. We give advice because one day, we won't be there to protect them." Daniel cried silently. For the first time, he understood every word they had ever said. But some realizations come after the damage is done. The hospital corridor was quiet that night. Only the sound of machines, and the slow footsteps of time. Daniel sat beside his mother's bed, holding her hand. For the first time in many years, he wasn't checking his phone. For the first time, he wasn't in a hurry. He was finally present. His mother opened her eyes slowly. "Daniel." "Yes, Mom, I'm here." She smiled weakly. I used to pray every night, not that you become rich, but that you become kind. Daniel felt tears fill his eyes. I tried to teach you so many things when you were young, she continued softly, but I know, children listen with their ears, not with their hearts. Daniel whispered, I understand now, Mom. I understand everything now. She gently shook her head. No, my child, you understand because you are scared of losing, but real understanding comes when you value people before you lose them. Those words stayed in Daniel's heart like a deep wound, and a deep lesson. That night, Daniel made a promise. He said, Mom, when you come home, I'll stay with you. I'll take care of you. I won't go back to the city for a long time. His mother smiled again, but this time, it was a peaceful smile. My son, don't change your life for me now. Just change your heart. And remember this lesson forever. Outside the room, Daniel saw his father sitting alone. His father looked older than Daniel remembered. His hair had turned white. His back had bent. Daniel sat beside him. I'm sorry, Dad. His father didn't reply at first. After a long silence, he said, Son, when you were a child, you cried when you fell. When you grew up, we cried when you forgot us. Daniel closed his eyes. He finally understood. Parents never complain loudly. They suffer silently. That night, Daniel remembered something. He was only 8 years old. He had broken his leg while playing. His mother stayed awake all night, sitting beside his bed. His father carried him every morning to school. Back then, Daniel thought, this is normal. Parents do this. Now he realized, nothing about a parent's love is normal. It is extraordinary. We just treat it as ordinary. Daniel remembered his father's words from years ago. When life becomes busy, don't make your parents your later. He had done exactly that. He kept them for later. Later never came. After a few days, his mother's condition became stable. She was allowed to go home. The house felt different now, smaller, quieter. Lonelier. Daniel noticed something he had never noticed before. His mother still waited at the door every evening, but now she waited for him. Daniel canceled his return ticket to the city. He started helping his father. He sat with his mother. He listened to their stories. Stories he had heard many times before, but this time, he listened with respect. One evening, his mother said softly, You have changed, my son. Daniel replied, No, Mom, I haven't changed. I just finally opened my eyes. Daniel started sharing his story with friends. He told them, Don't wait for life to scare you into loving your parents. Love them while you still have time. Some listened. Some smiled and said, Yeah, we'll take care of them later. Daniel only smiled sadly. He knew that later is the most dangerous word in a child's life. Time slowly began to heal the house. Daniel stayed with his parents longer than he had planned. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. For the first time in years, breakfast was shared. Laughter returned. Silence felt warm, not lonely. But life has a strange way of testing promises. One morning, Daniel received a phone call. It was from his company in the city. Daniel, we are offering you a promotion, double salary, better position, but you must return next week. Daniel held the phone tightly. This was the dream he once chased, the life he once chose over his parents. Now the same dream stood in front of him again, but this time, his heart was not the same. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He sat outside, looking at the quiet street. His father joined him. You look troubled, son. Daniel told him everything about the job offer. His father listened quietly. Then he said something Daniel never expected. Go, son. Daniel looked shocked. But Dad, I promised. His father smiled gently. We didn't raise you to stop your life for us. We raised you to live it with honor. Daniel felt tears in his eyes. But I don't want to lose you again, he said softly. His father replied, You only lost us when you forgot us, not when you went away. Later, Daniel spoke to his mother. She listened carefully. Then she said, My child, success is not the enemy. Forgetfulness is. She held his hand and added, Go, but this time, take your heart with you. Daniel returned to the city. But this time, life was different. He called every day. He visited every month. He sent photos. He shared his life. Most importantly, he made his parents part of his journey. No more excuses. No more delays. One evening, months later, Daniel received another call. This time, it was from a neighbor. Your father collapsed today. He is in the hospital. Daniel dropped everything and rushed home. Fear filled his chest. Not again. Not this time. His father lay on the bed, eyes closed. Daniel held his hand. "Dad, I'm here." His father slowly opened his eyes and smiled. "You came fast," he whispered. Daniel replied with a broken voice. "I promised myself I would never be late again." His father looked at him lovingly. "Son, listen to me carefully." Daniel nodded through tears. Parents give advice not because they are perfect, but because they don't want you to repeat their mistakes. Daniel held his father's hand tighter. "I won't forget this, ever." The doctors worked through the night. Daniel sat outside the room, praying silently. For the first time in his life, he understood what it feels like to fear losing someone, not because of distance, but because of time. By morning, his father's condition became stable. Daniel breathed in relief. He walked outside and looked at the sky. For the first time, he felt something strange, gratitude instead of regret. Because this time, life gave him another chance. Daniel realized something powerful. The advice parents give is not for today. It is for the day when they are no longer there to speak. The morning sun came through the hospital window. Daniel stood beside his father's bed, watching him breathe slowly. For the first time in many years, Daniel felt something deeper than fear. He felt responsibility, not the kind that feels heavy, but the kind that feels right. When his father finally opened his eyes, he saw Daniel sitting there. "You didn't leave," his father said softly. Daniel smiled. "No, Dad. This time, I stayed." His father closed his eyes for a moment and whispered, "Then my advice didn't go to waste." Those words touched Daniel more than any praise he had ever received in life. After his father recovered, Daniel returned to the city for a few days, but something inside him had changed forever. The office felt cold now. The noise felt empty. The success felt incomplete. One evening, Daniel sat alone in his apartment and thought, "I built a future for myself, but I almost forgot my past." That night, he made a decision that would change his life, not in money, but in meaning. A week later, Daniel stood in front of his parents at home. "I have decided something," he said. His parents looked at him quietly. "I am changing my job," Daniel continued. "I found work closer to home. It pays less, but it gives me time." His mother's eyes filled with tears. His father placed his hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Son, we never wanted you to choose us over your dreams. We just wanted you to never forget us inside your dreams." Daniel smiled. "I didn't give up my dreams, Dad. I just finally understood what my real dream is." Daniel started his new job. He earned less money, but he gained something priceless. Time with his parents, peace in his heart, purpose in his life. Every morning, he had breakfast with them. Every evening, he listened to their stories. Every night, he felt thankful. Slowly, Daniel started sharing his journey online, not to become famous, but to warn others. He wrote simple words. "Don't wait for life to scare you into loving your parents. Love them before fear becomes your teacher." People began to respond. Some said, "You made me call my mother today." Some said, "I visited my father after years." Daniel realized his pain had become someone else's hope. One day, Daniel went back to his old school. He stood in front of the classroom, where he once sat as a child. He remembered how his parents used to say, "Study well, respect people, stay humble." Back then, he thought those were small words. Now he knew those words were life instructions. That evening, Daniel sat with his parents on the porch. The sky was turning orange. His mother said softly, "You look peaceful these days." Daniel replied, "I am peaceful because I am no longer running away from what matters." His father smiled and said, "Then you finally understood our advice." Daniel looked at them both and said, "Yes, but I wish I understood it earlier." His mother held his hand gently. "Better late than never, my son." Daniel often says now, parents don't want perfection, they want presence. They don't want gifts, they want time. They don't want your success, they want your heart. The house felt warm that evening, not because of the weather, but because of the love that finally lived inside it again. Daniel sat between his parents, listening to their simple stories of the past, memories of struggle, laughter of small joys. He realized something important. Happiness does not come from having more. Happiness comes from being with who matters most. One night, while Daniel was helping his mother in the kitchen, she suddenly stopped and held the table. "Mom?" Daniel asked worriedly. She smiled gently. "Don't worry, my son. I just felt tired." Daniel supported her to the chair and sat beside her. In that quiet moment, his mother looked at him and said softly, "Daniel, If one day I am not here, promise me you will never forget what you learned. Daniel felt his heart shake. He held her hand tightly. I promise, Mom, I will never forget. A few days later, Daniel found a small envelope in his mother's cupboard. On it was written, "For my son, when he is ready." With trembling hands, Daniel opened it. Inside was a letter. My dear son, if you are reading this, it means you finally understand what parents feel. We never wanted to control your life. We only wanted to protect your heart from pain we once felt. If you ever make a mistake, forgive yourself, but never forget the lesson. And remember this always. Parents give advice not because they know everything, but because they love more than anything. With endless love, your mother. Tears rolled down Daniel's face. Not of sadness alone, but of gratitude. Time passed, life continued. One quiet morning, Daniel's mother passed away peacefully in her sleep. There was no pain on her face, only calm. Daniel stood beside her, holding her hand one last time. He did not cry loudly. He did not scream. He only whispered, "Thank you, Mom, for never giving up on me." At her funeral, Daniel stood in front of everyone and said, "My mother used to tell me, children understand advice late, but parents never stop loving. I was late, but I am grateful I was not too late." From that day on, Daniel changed his life completely. Not for success, not for money, but for meaning. Daniel began speaking to young people in schools, in communities, online. He always ended with the same message: if your parents are still alive, don't wait for regret to teach you love. Love them now. Listen to their advice, not because they are always right, but because one day, their voice will only live in your memory. Years later, Daniel wrote one line on the wall of his home: "The advice parents give is understood late, but remembered forever." This story is for every son and daughter who is busy today, and for every parent who waits silently, because in the end, life teaches us one truth: parents speak early, children understand late, love remains forever.